Okay, hi everybody. I am Tiffany Quarles. I am the alcohol prevention specialist here at the Division of Substance Use Disorder, which is in the Department for Behavioral Health. And today, what I'm really here to talk to you about is the KIP survey, or the Kentucky Incentives for Prevention survey. Some of you may be familiar with this survey, some of you may not be, but it's really the largest survey that is done in Kentucky. It's the largest source of data we have on adolescent behavioral health and social emotional well-being that is conducted in Kentucky. It's offered every other year to 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students across Kentucky. District level participation is voluntary. So we send out letters, or we sent out letters, I should say, I think like way back in March, to superintendents asking for their district to participate. Like I said, it's totally up to them if they choose to. And really, what we're trying to do is help schools and communities plan their prevention programming. We're helping them support students, apply for grants, and really understand the needs that our youth have. Whoops, let's go the other direction, my friend. Okay. So why is it important? Why do we even ask this question? Um, well, there we go. It really helps us gives us a snapshot, right, of what is happening in our communities. A lot of times, schools, when it comes time to take the KIP survey, they may be a little hesitant because they don't want it. They feel like the survey or the results may reflect poorly on the school. But honestly, what this survey is really a reflection. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you all hear me? Okay, thanks. What this survey really is a reflection of what is happening in your community and what is walking through your doors as educators and people in the school system. It also really just shows us a snapshot of what is happening with our students at any given time. And we can take this information and really help get the appropriate programming in place to help our young people be successful. There we go. We've kind of already been over this, but we want to understand what students are experiencing. We want to guide schools on what actions to take or be able to use the data to guide schools on what actions to take. We really want to find and address those student needs early so that we can basically before they become problems, right? Or while they are minor. We want to be able to intervene at that point and make changes. It also helps us track student health and their behaviors over time so that we can make informed decisions when it's time to look at programming and such. And it also, like I said, helps us create or implement that programming and supports that youth need. Good heavens. There we go. We've already been over this just a little bit, but it is administered to 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. It's done in even number years. The survey window is October 1st through November 15th. So you have a good solid 6 weeks in there. Just kind of as a side note, what else falls during October that as Frisk you all have to work on? Or many of you work on? Any ideas? Red Ribbon Week. I'm sure you all do Red Ribbon Week activities. So it is a perfect thing that falls right in line with this survey. The survey is completed online, so it's 100% done on a device. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes to complete, and there are 124 questions. However, that seems really daunting. It makes me feel a little overwhelmed. But there are skip patterns in the survey. So if you answer no to something, it lets you skip. So what we are finding is that obviously students are not answering the full 124 questions because of the skip patterns, and it's not taking quite the 30 to 40 minutes. We just asked to go ahead and allot for that because by the time we get everybody logged on and all those things, that takes just a bit. It's also really important to note that the survey is completely anonymous. So we have no idea which students are taking the survey. We have no idea how they're answering. Each school is given in each grade, I believe, are given like codes, and like that's the code for the school. So we don't have, there's no identifying information that's collected. And we do have the survey available in multiple languages. So if that is a necessity, that is something we do have available. So here's some of the core questions. I'm not going to read them all to you, but I do think that it's really important that you notice that, or that you know, that a lot of the core questions came from the Center for Substance Abuse Prevention, which is with SAMHSA. They're really based on research of risk and protective factors that really are associated with youth use. So it's what helps keep our kids safe, or what puts them more at risk of using substance use is kind of what that's based on. And using these questions that came from this national group really helps us make those comparisons, not only nationally, but it also helps us do in-state comparisons to see kind of how we're doing over time. It also, like I said, helps us make those in-state comparisons so we can kind of look and see what we're doing overall. And so you'll see here in our little color blocks that we have, these are just some of the categories that some of our questions fall under. And then the side, I think they have like some sample questions there. But we ask questions about substance use. You know, we want to know how many occasions have you vaped in the last 30 days? It talks about attitude towards substance use. And this question really talks about youth perception, youth attitudes about the substances, but it also says how wrong, like some of the questions, how wrong do you think your parents would think this is? So it's trying to see if they feel like their parents would approve or disapprove of it. There are some school safety and bullying questions on there. One of the questions is how safe do you feel at school, or in the past year, have you ever been electronically bullied? Things like that that help us think about overall youth safety. And then, of course, we really look at mental health. That's a big component of it. You know, how often have you felt hopeless? We know that there is a strong connection between substance use and mental health concerns. And so we kind of we ask questions about that, knowing that when we can influence one, we can possibly influence the other. This is the timeline for the KIP survey. I know that some of you who have been around for a while have been like, this feels like we are jumping all over the place with this survey. So we'll give you a little bit of background. The survey's been around, I think at this point, about 27 years. From 2004 to 2018, we did it every other year in the fall of even number years. Well, then in 2020, we had to cancel it because of the pandemic, right? We did not have students in classrooms to actually take the survey. So at that point, the survey was postponed to 2021. We were going to establish a new timeline. We were going to move forward in the odd number years. But then, once again, we had another wrench in the plans. 2023, the survey was delayed because that is when we had the implementation of Senate Bill 150, which is the parental consent law, basically, that if you're going to have health education or surveys that involve youth, we need active, I guess we should say active parental consent for those. So in 2024, the survey returned to fall of even numbered years, and we are hoping to keep it on that track. Hopefully, we don't have any more global pandemics or any of those other things that we need to deal with, and that we're going to be able to resume back on this path. This will also help us kind of redevelop that cohort, right? So we had about 5 years in there that things were just super wonky, but we're hoping to get things back on that even number years so that we have comparable data. Statewide participation, this is what participation has looked like over the years. You can see in 2003, we only had 37 districts participate. In 24, we had 109. You can tell there was a huge difference between 21 and 24. That's where we had that active consent piece come in. And it's really just harder, right? To get participation. We also had a decrease in the number of students participating. And so we know that that is really in large part because of the active consent. It really just requires parents, we've talked about this, to give permission for their child to participate in any health survey administered by the school system. I like to call this thoughtful consent. I think we've kind of made active consent because it is so hard for us. Let's be honest, it is so hard. But we kind of given it a little bit of a negative connotation. So I'm trying to think of it as thoughtful consent. We're really wanting to give parents the opportunity to thoughtfully consider participation in things. And that just takes more effort. So we're kind of trying to look at that. But we know because of this thoughtful consent or active consent piece, we did have fewer students participate in the survey. We also know that the students who were at highest risk for negative outcomes are really underrepresented in the data. The kids who may need it most were not the ones who took the survey, or the ones who were participating in some of the activities are not necessarily the ones who took the survey because we had to have that parental consent. Because of these two things, we also know we're trying not to we're interpreting the data, I should say, with caution. Because we are kind of comparing an odd number year to an even number year. It's not necessarily the same students. We also, as a result of this, some districts did not meet the minimum participation requirements to receive the results. So when a school district participates, typically at the end of it, they can get a nice little packet that says, in Franklin County, this is what it looks like. Some of our schools didn't have enough kids actually sign on. So if we don't have enough youth, the data can become identifying. And so we really have to be protective of that data. So one of the things that we're really working on is increasing parental participation. The numbers of schools are super important to us, but what information do we need to get to our parents so that they can make those informed decisions? So part of that process has been we created a document called the KIP at a Glance. And I can send that to Quentin and see if we can get that shared with you guys. I'm so sorry I did not do that ahead of time. But basically what that KIP at a Glance shows us is, well, let me rephrase that. We took the data from the 2024 survey and we put it into a snapshot type version that really goes over the developmental assets and how this data relates to that. So the survey data that we're getting ready to show you is representative from our 10th grade students from in 2024. I believe we had I can't remember exactly how many students that we had participate in 2024. I think it was probably around 5,000 that participated. So when we looked at this, And this is just some of what the survey said to us, okay, or what we learned from those survey results. So in 2024, 31% of students reported sleeping 8 or more hours each night. So only a third of our kids are really getting enough sleep. The reason this is really important is because kids who get less than 6 hours of sleep a night are more likely to use or misuse substances. So there's a really strong relationship there that makes us asking or makes asking about sleep a really important piece.
Do you need a
Um,
note?
it,
Okay.
okay, sorry. It is also really, as a parent, that's something that I feel like I have a little bit more control over, right? So if I get this information, I can encourage earlier bedtimes. I can encourage healthy sleep habits. Those are some things that we can help with, and knowing that if we increase sleep, we really are increasing the protective factor around our youth. The research also showed us that 50% of youth report sometimes eating too much at one time or limiting how much they are eating. And this is, I think the remainder of this question is kind of worded like in an effort to control weight. So, about half of our kids are really monitoring how much they eat. And once again, strong relationship between eating disorders or disordered eating behaviors and substance misuse. Our mental health, this will not be a shock to any of you guys, but mental health and substance use are really closely related. These others are related, but there is a very strong relationship between the mental health and substance use. We ask youth about nervousness, hopelessness, if they're restless or fidgety, depressed, or if they feel worthless. These are all within most or all of the time in the past 30 days. You'll notice that in the past 30 days, we had 38, or I'm sorry, 30, almost 34% say that they felt restless or fidgety, most or all of the time. Followed closely by about 27% who said they feel nervous or anxious. In this post-COVID world that we're living in, this is not really surprising, right? We have a lot of youth who have some anxiety around being at school. We have young people who are having a hard time sitting still. But we also know that these mental health concerns are related to an increase in substance use. So overall, most Kentucky youth are doing well. But we do know that some of our youth are still experiencing challenges, particularly around sleep, mental health, and their eating behaviors. We know that there's a connection there. And we know that healthy sleep, nutrition, and positive coping skills and emotional well being really are the important protective factor there that support mental health and substance use prevention. So, then on this survey, we also talked about substance use. If we look at this, we have 93.7% said their parents would think it was wrong or very wrong for them to use marijuana. So most kids think it's wrong. However, there's a lot of kids who still choose to do that. We have almost 54% that said that it would be easy or very easy to get vapes or e-cigarettes. And 11.5% report using alcohol before the age of 12. Now, I am the alcohol person here at the state, so I'm going to pick on that particular data point. That's one of my favorite data points because around what age do we actually start doing a lot of substance use prevention services in our school? It's usually after the age of 12, right? 12 is right around that sixth grade age. And we already, that's about the time we start, is around middle school age with a lot of our prevention services. But according to this data point, if we really want to start initial use of substances, we have to start having the conversation before sixth grade, don't we? Also, looking at the data, you'll see there with our bar graph, it's the percent of students who said they use substances one or more times. I want you to know something really, really I find interesting once again as the alcohol person. 16.2% are vapes and e-cigs, right? But the shocking part, or the part that I find really interesting, is that 18.8% chose alcohol. In our schools, we put a lot of our efforts around that vaping and e-cigarette piece, don't we? But according to the data, we really should be putting some of our efforts towards the alcohol piece as well. And so that to me is where the survey becomes really important and really exciting, is because when we have this data in front of us, this would help us make a programming decision, right? To me, looking at it, be like, okay, well, we need to make sure, not that we don't need to address E6 because that is very, very high, right? The vaping piece is very, very high, but our alcohol piece is high as well. So what kind of programming could we put in place that would help address both? Or how could we help address both of these issues so that we are better protecting our students? So, when we look at our takeaways for this, most youth are making those healthy choices. Most kids are not using alcohol, vapes, or marijuana. We know that past month use has really declined over the past 8 years. And so that means that our prevention efforts really are making a difference. We know that delaying substance use is important because the brain's not developed and is more vulnerable to these substances or to the effects, I'm sorry, of the substances. And early substance use is associated with increased risk for mental health challenges, sleep problems, academic difficulties, and future substance use disorders. So this is not like I mean, it is an additional thing, but we know that when we address some of the substance use issues, we can really correct a lot of different issues that youth are experiencing. So then we take a little look at it at relationships, and this is something I think that's a little bit different from what some people may think. We know that like almost 95% say, and we mentioned this earlier with cannabis, but almost 95% said that their parents or caregivers would disapprove of vapes or them using vapes or e-cigarettes. Almost 90%, this is say that they have a trusted adult who they could talk to. So if they are experiencing something that is bigger than them, they know a person they could get help from. With 4.2% of our youth that we surveyed, our 10th grade youth, say that during the last school year their boyfriend or girlfriend physically hurt them. And that's something that we need to kind of keep in mind. We have almost 38% who say that they have at least one family member currently or formerly in the military. So we have a military connection there. 31% of youth who drink report getting the alcohol they consume from their parents or family members. So that identifies a place where we really may want to do some more education. And 2.6% say that in the past year, that their drinking or drug use has caused problems with their parents. So this kind of gives us an idea of how the substance use can really impact those relationships that we have, or how the relationships we have can impact our substance use. We know that those strong relationships with parents and those trusted adults in our lives really are a protective factor against substance use. We know when kids feel connected and supported, they're less likely to use substances and have better mental health, which I think is a really important part there. That open communication really strengthens family bonds, and clear expectations and consistent support at home and in other relationships really helps young people make healthier choices. So that is not just expectations and that support at home, but it could be in their other relationships that they experience as well. So we're going to look at a little bit of school data quickly. 58.3% said they received mostly A's during the last school year. 72% say that they experience a sense of belonging at school. 72.8% believe that they can be themselves at school, which is a great thing. 86.6% say they feel safe or very safe at school. And 97.7% say that they've not been in trouble at school for drinking or for drug use. So once again, we know that that connection, particularly that school connection, is a protective factor. We know students who are connected are more likely to be succeed academically. They're more likely to feel safe, and they're more likely to experience a sense of belonging. Connected students are also less likely to engage in alcohol or other substance use, and they are at lower risk for mental health challenges. Those positive school environments support both prevention and academic success by strengthening relationships, engagement, and their safety. So building and maintaining those relationships and maintaining those supportive school climates is really essential for keeping kids on a healthy developmental path, not using substances, and increasing their mental health. We do ask questions about peers and free time. When we look at this, we find out that about 67% say they feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and opinions with their peers. 14% say they have experienced electronic bullying in the last year. About 70% say that they check their social media at least twice an hour. And 10.7% say that they have gambled, at least one time in the past 12 months. So that's either gaming or gambling included there. What this really tells us, though, is that peer influence is a major factor in adolescent substance use. It really helps young people shape what they feel is normal or acceptable behavior. And while a lot of people have strong supportive peer connections, that peer group can either protect against or increase the risk for alcohol and other substance use, depending on how the group norms of that group. Our social media and online interactions can support connection, but it may also contribute to stress, comparison, or bullying for some youth. And healthy friendships, balanced screen time, and positive coping skills are really important protective factors for mental health and for substance use prevention. Now, this is one of my favorite parts that is in this survey. We ask about recreation and sports. So what we're asking youth is, have you participated in one or more hours of extracurricular activities a week? So this is what you're doing outside the classroom, right? So this can be sports, it can be band, drama, 4-H, FFA, scouts, it can be youth groups at church. It can be any number of things. So when we asked that, 61% said that they participated in school-based activities. 49% said that they participated in faith-based activities, and then we had almost 29% saying that they participated in some community activities. The reason this is so important is because that participation in those structured activities is associated with lower rates of youth substance use. The research shows us that it's not the activity itself that is protective, but it is the connections that come from that activity. So the support of adults, the positive peers, the strong sense of community belonging is really, really important. We also know that most youth are engaged in at least 1 hour of extracurricular activities a week. Um, we also know that these really positive experiences are linked to the better mental health, stronger relationships, and then a reduction in overall substance use. Once again, this as a parent, this is something we wanted to make sure we included in here because this is something that's kind of easy to do as well, right? To encourage your youth to participate in something. You don't have to be the quarterback of the football team, right? But you might want to be part of the pep club. You might want to be part of the art club. There's all kinds of ways that this could look for a young person. And like I said, as a parent, it's just encouraging that involvement. So overall, some of our key takeaways is that student well-being, mental health, and substance use are really closely related, and we know that. We also know that those strong results with caring adult, good grief, strong relationships. I'm sorry, with caring adults, those positive peer connections, and that school connectedness really helps young people thrive. Prevention's more about preventing substance use. It's really about creating those environments where the youth feel supported, connected, and healthy, and ultimately able to succeed. So here's how you can help. Um, if your school district has not signed on to participate in the 2026 KIP survey, please encourage participation. If your school district has signed on, you can help work with parents to educate them so that they can learn about the benefits of the survey so that they can make informed decisions on participation. So encourage those parents to allow their youth to participate. And you can also really share how the KIP data has had a positive impact on your work. So if you have a positive story of how you've used the data, then feel free to share that with your community, share that with your superintendents, share that with the families in your community because they a lot of times don't know what some of how the data is being used positively in their communities. So I have a few discussion questions. We have some time. So we can, I think instead of going over these necessarily, I think what we'll do is just kind of open it up for questions. If you all have any questions or comments or concerns, or if you have an answer to some of the questions on the screen, just come off chat or come off mute. I'm sorry, and we can have some discussion. Is there anything you would like to have more information about? So, how many of you, let me see if I can get it where I can see you all. How many of you have used the KIP survey before or your district has participated before? You can just raise your virtual hand. You guys. Would anyone like to share how you've used some of the data from the survey?
I've used it before. This is Shelley Wesley. I've used it before in my grant writing.
Hmm. Great, thanks, Shelley. Did it help you all receive the grant?
I think it didn't hurt. I mean, they didn't really. specify that it did, but I just thought it it was added to help, I think, through
Hmm.
our ASAP and stuff.
Thank you. I have someone in chat saying they've used it for their needs assessment report. Let's see here. Um, Someone used it in writing their CPP. We have, yes, CPP. Let's see here. So as we look, let's see here, another one. Yes, CPP. So as we kind of think about this, is there any support that you could use from us here at the state level as we look at the 2026 administration of the survey? This, oh, I'm sorry, Shelley and Amanda, it looks like you both have your hands up.
Sorry.
No, don't be
I
sorry.
need
Go
to
ahead.
take it down. No, I need to take it down. I'm fine.
Okay. Thank you. Amanda, did you have something? Okay, forgot to lower it. Yes, the rain is making everybody sleepy. It's making connections slow. Uh, I know that, like many of you all, we did not get much sleep at my house last night, and it's the first day of school for our kids here. So I know that everybody is a little overwhelmed, but I will say, as you move into this season of the KIP survey, I highly recommend that you consider maybe administering it during Red Ribbon Week because we're already talking about substance use issues that week. It's already one of our main focuses. And what better way to help talk about substance use than going ahead and doing the survey that gives us the data that we need for that? Um, I know that knowing that we have to have active consent or that thoughtful consent piece, go ahead and start talking to your families and your parents early, your back to school nights, getting permission slips sent out as early as you possibly can. So that we can get as much parental involvement as we possibly can. If your school has not signed on, you can ask and see. You can contact me personally if you would like to, and I can tell you if your school district has signed on. And that way you can kind of know what to expect. All the paperwork is sent to the superintendents as soon as they agree to participate. So we will send out information on how to talk to parents, sample permission slips, all those things once we receive that. School districts do have till the end of August to sign on, so we have a couple more weeks for districts to go ahead and let us know if they want to participate this year. I will say that is not a hard and fast date. Right. I mean, we have a little wiggle room with that, but we're going to try to have the majority of the school districts signed on by the end of the month. So if you talk to anybody, your principals, encourage them to talk to the superintendent, school board, whoever needs to be involved about participation. If you need talking points, frequently asked questions, anything like that, please let me know. We can share that with you all, and that way you can have that information to share within your communities. Is there any more other questions before we move on? Quentin, I'm sorry, I don't have anything else. And we don't have any other questions. So thank you guys so much for letting me talk to you about it today.